Hello, and welcome to another episode of View from the Countertop. I'm your host, Jennifer Vanderbeek with scrapsoflife.com, and tonight I'm going to show you my favorite rosemary risotto recipe. Now, this comes from Marcella Hazan's Marcella Cucina. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And it is my go-to risotto recipe. It's her risotto friuli style with rosemary and white wine. I'm going to start with some butter and some garlic olive oil in a very hot pan. Get the butter all nice and melted. And then I'm going to add in my chopped rosemary, and always use fresh for this. You will not be happy if you use dried. You will get little sticks poking into your gums. And then after we cook that in the butter a bit, then we're going to add the arborio rice and stir to make sure that every single grain of rice gets coated with that butter and oil mixture. That is pretty key to the risotto method, and you really don't want to skimp on this. Now, this sounds familiar from when you make that boxed rice-a-roni. Yep. That's pretty much where that comes from. Okay, so now I've added the white wine. You want a dry white wine, and we're going to cook that. We're cooking on high, or near as close to as you can get without scorching anything. And then once the white wine is absorbed, then we're going to start adding our broth, which I've got in a pan or pot on the next burner to keep it warm. And we're going to start with 2 ladles full, or about a cup for this first addition, and we're going to cook that down, stirring constantly. Stirring is key for this, and this is kind of where risotto gets a bad reputation as being hard or difficult, but no, you just have to keep stirring. That's really it. Now, you know when it's time to add more liquid, and we're only going to add a single ladle full. Going on here is when you run your wooden spoon down the mass of rice and it doesn't automatically fill in or immediately start to fill in. That's when you know that most of the liquid has been absorbed and it's time to add some more. The slow addition of liquid and the constant stirring work together to distribute the starch from the rice throughout the entire dish, and that's what makes that fabulous consistency that risotto is known for. And so you do not want to skip. You do not want to just let it sit. Now, once all of the stock has been incorporated, then we're going to do this finishing step that is, I believe it's pronounced the mantiquere step, and it is butter and Parmesan cheese, and in this case, the rest of our chopped rosemary. And you just want to stir that in. It adds an extra layer of creaminess, and it just tastes good, you know? But the cooking the rice in the oil and then the finishing with the mantiquere, those are like the 2 hallmarks of risotto, and you can't really call it risotto if you haven't done those 2 things, among others. It's beautiful, and this always turns out perfectly. You do want to season now at this point with salt and pepper to after everything else is in. Now, meanwhile, I had some salmon fillets in the oven, and it just made for a very good dinner in 26 minutes total from start to finish. Now, what did the rest of our week look like? On Monday, I made this zucchini crust pizza that has been floating around Facebook, and I did make a mistake. I used twice as much zucchini as it really called for. So our crust never actually crisped up enough to be able to pick it up and eat it like a slice of pizza, but it was no hardship to use a fork on it, and I think we'll definitely be making this again, though I might just make it as a casserole and call it a day. On Tuesday, I pulled out a container of the vegan corn chowder from my book, What to Feed Your Raiding Party, the comic book cookbook for gamers. It was supposed to be a dark and stormy night. It just ended up being hot and humid, but the chowder was still good. On Wednesday, I used another freezer meal, this time the coconut lime chicken, which I cooked on the stove, while I had some purple rice that we'd picked up from Disney Springs last fall in the rice cooker, and steamed some green beans. Thursday and Friday ended up being takeout nights because I wasn't feeling up to cooking, but Saturday I got back in the kitchen and made these vegetarian eggs Benedicts that were just amazingly good. It used cream spinach instead of the Canadian bacon layer and hash brown haystacks instead of the English muffins or whatever other bread layer you would normally use. And of course, Sunday is our rosemary and white wine risotto with the broiled salmon. Let's face it, the risotto was the main dish, the salmon was just something to put with it to round out the meal. And that was our week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please give us a thumbs up or a like down below, and consider subscribing if you haven't already, so you'll see whenever we add new videos. Once again, I'm Jennifer Vanderbeek with scrapsoflife.com, and I am wishing you a creative and tasty week ahead. Bye-bye.